All right, and welcome back. A little bit of the lay of the land here. I still have my garter stitch band with my double crochet stitches double stranded here on top of it. And I have got my first panel of 5 for the crown and the head complete here. So you will see that you've got this lovely Tunisian lines throughout, and each Tunisian column you can see there along the work. The decreases have all fed into each other, one on top of the other, giving that lovely, lovely set of V's all the way down and this lovely diagonal. And the 3 loops that we had at the very top of each column, 1, 2, 3, you can see them there before we hit the decreases. And you can also see that every subsequent column has actually gotten a lot shorter. So our first one was about here, around about 6 inches. And they slowly decrease down here like this. And that's what gives the hat its shaping, because you need fewer stitches at the crown than you need around the head itself. So ready to start into panel number 2 here. So we're going to use a little bit of traditional crochet before we get back into our Tunisian again. And it's simply a question of looking at your fabric and turning it so that you're looking at the back of your work, or the wrong side of your fabric, with the V's sitting on top like so. Your hook on the right if you're right-handed, your hook on the left if you're left-handed. And you can see here on top of your work, you've got your set of V's. You should have 14 if you've got the right number of columns. If you have increased or decreased the number of stitches in your rows in your band, you'll have a different number here. But as long as that makes sense to your maths, then you should be fine. So I have 14 here. What I'm going to do is look at that. I'm going to see the loop on my hook and the first V directly below it, which is this pinky one here. And I'm going to skip that first one, and I'm going to focus on the second one along. Bit of a consistent theme when it comes to crochet. So I'm skipping little pinky one in the end there, and I'm going into this light colored one here. And I'm going to do a row of double crochets, same as we used for the band itself here. So just a bit of a recap. I am going to be yarning over from bottom right to top left over my work like so. It's the exact same way that normally you would crochet. It's the same yarn over. I just happen to use a knitter's hand for it. And knitters, bear in mind as well, again, that's how you would normally yarn over. This is how I'm expecting you to yarn over here. It's the opposite direction to what you would normally do. So it's yarn over, drawing back through your fabric like so. So you have 2 loops on your hook, and yarn over through those 2. And I'm going to do that for every single V along. So I had 14 V's on top. I'm skipping the first, so I'll have 13 double crochets when I'm done with this piece here. And I am, as I say, I'm just crocheting along the very, very top of my work. I'm going back up to the point at the very top of the crown here, so that I'm in the right position to start into panel number 2. There we go, into the very next one along. If you're ever unsure which the next stitch is, have a look at your work from the side, by the way, and take your last stitch that you did and make it dance. So this one here is my last one, making it dance. And see that hole in the fabric there that's sort of wiggling in time? That shows you where it's connected. That shows you where you have been. So it's not this one you're going into, it's the next one along. It's this guy here that you go into. If it's not dancing, that's where you go. So right in there, into this guy here. With my double crochets, or single crochets if you're in the US. Like so. And you've almost got all the skills now. The last thing we need to do for this video is to show you how to pick up loops to replace all the ones we were decreasing in all those columns that we did in panel number 1. So we're going to reset our stitch number essentially before we start into the second and every subsequent panel. So there we go, I've got my last one there. So all I'm going to do here now is do 1 chain stitch, so it's just yarn over and draw through, and then I'm going to turn my work back. So I'm looking at the front of it again, and I can see all those double crochets now are sitting on top of the columns that we had in place. So if you can have a look at it there, this is where my chain was, all the way down here. This side here is my chain. This is all the fabric I've created with my decreases, and I have finished off here, and I double crocheted back up to the point on top there. My band, of course, on the bottom here. So what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to repeat the picking up of the loops that I did at the chain here, but I'm going to do it down the side of my double crochets and then get back into picking up loops in my lines on my previous column all the way down here. And to do that, all I do once more is to have a look at what my work inside the hook. I find the loop on my hook, if I can get that to focus. Oh, I hope it stays. Okay, so loop on my hook here. I'm going to skip this chain stitch here, the first V along, skipping that, and going into the very second V. So the first double crochet essentially is where I'm going. Then I'm going to yarn over and draw up a loop and keep it there. And find the very next double crochet along and repeat that process. Yarn over and draw up a loop and do the same for all the other double crochets all the way down. So if you have this correctly counted out and if it's all working out fine, you should be picking up 13 loops with the loop that was on your hook already. That should land you with 14 loops. If it doesn't, chances are, if you've got too many, chances are you've added too many double crochets. If you've got too few, chances are you've skipped or missed one along the way. So it might be worth backtracking a little bit to see how that all worked out for yourself. There we go. There's that last one there. So we have got our loops here. We've got the one that was on the hook, and then we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 extra on that there. So thank the yarn gods, I got my numbers right. All right, so at this point, we're going to have a look at our previous column, which is always going to be the looser one on the edge here. It's the one that actually seems like it's way less solid because it is. You can see the holes all the way down there on it. And it starts right at the top here with this little loop here. If you can't find them, look back along the fabric and find the topmost line and draw your eye along that until it reaches a natural terminal here. And I'm going to pick up that loop in there, in there, in here. And we're not going to do any decreasing on this one. This is just resetting our panels. So we can go straight past absolutely everything and pick up loops all the way down on our work here. So we're going to have maximum number of loops again because we have added 13 from up here. So this is blending our panel number 1 with the side of panel number 2 and preserving the point on top of our hat. Go, pick up loops all the way down. Suddenly forget how far you travelled. Sorry about the noises in the kitchen. Somebody's cooking me lunch. Okay, here we go. I'm almost there. Just a bit of a recap as well. This yarn is Fruitful Fusion yarn. You'll find a link to her Etsy shop in the description of this video. This is her merino cashmere nylon blend. It's meant to be a sock yarn, but to be honest, it is so soft I don't think feet deserve it. I like to use it for my hat instead. It's absolutely beautiful stuff. Okay, so we've got all of our loops here on our hook, looking very crowded. And once again, we find the very next double crochet along on the band itself. Pop your hook in, pick up one final loop, and then yarn over through 2 the whole way back up again. This hat is the Ishrat hat, named after the dyer who created the yarn itself. And you will find the rest of the videos for this over on my website, yarntowers.com, and on various pattern websites. And I'll be tweeting about it, and it'll be in my Instagram as well, of course. This pattern is a free pattern, but you can get a pattern PDF for it, so you don't have to rely on the videos. You can get a PDF for it with purchase of Fruitful Fusion yarn over on my Patreon if you join me on Patreon, or if you join my mailing list. PDF isn't readily available, otherwise you have to rely on the videos and listening to me yabber on. Here we go. Okay, so we're getting close to the end here. Trying very hard not to lose more loops than necessary so I don't seem entirely incompetent. Here we go, almost there. And once you have column number 1 done, it's a matter of simply going back to column number 2, the instructions that I gave you for the first panel itself, and continuing as you were doing. There you go, second last, and the last one there, like so. So that is, now that panel, or that column there has got a bend in it, which the other one didn't, but it actually develops a bend as you go. And that there is your second column started. And once again, the pattern is established in panel number 1, and you use it exactly the same in panel number 2. So you're going to find your first 3 lines, and you're going to pick up loops in those. Pick up the first one, pick up the second one, pick up the third one, irrespective of that bend. And we're going to decrease number 4 and number 5. So through those, yarn over, pull 1 loop through, and then carry on down as you had been doing. Simple as that. So I'm going to keep working on this until I have all 5 panels done. You should get 5 panels into your 70 stitch headband. If you run out, then maybe scooch 2 panels into 1 stitch and we can kind of fudge it a little bit. Or if you end up with too many, maybe skip one. I don't know. I do that kind of thing all the time. I don't think there's ever a perfect project in my past. Everything's got a little bit of a sneaky decrease or increase somewhere along the way. Who has time for perfection, eh? Right, okay, so you're going to keep working your way down the hat like so and creating panel number 2. And by the end of panel number 2, you'll actually start to see that the hat itself, the shaping starts to form. Because you got fewer stitches on top than you do on the bottom, there's a natural desire for the fabric itself to sit with this flat on top and this as if it's down the side of your head. So it's lovely to see that begin to form itself. Remember, of course, that your decrease is going to be up here. You're ignoring the decrease down here. It doesn't exist for panel number 2 right there. So there we go. I hope you give that a go, and I hope you will join me in the next video where I'm going to show you how to seam up the end of your work. We've got a different seam for your garter stitch piece and for your Tunisian crochet, but one way or the other it stays quite invisible. So I hope you'll join me for that video as well. Thank you very much.